Hi everyone, welcome to UX Living Lab. Presentation will start soon. Hi, welcome to my presentation for this week. Today I am talking about being a UI designer, how to convert UX findings to UI design. So last week we talked about how to listen to users, and this week we are talking about how to convert UX findings after listening the users to UI design. So converting UX findings to UI design. I'm just briefing what we had last week. UX findings. We started with 5 Ws, that why we had to hear users, whom to listen, when we had to listen, where we had to listen, and what we have to listen. These are the basic questions we discussed last week. Then we concluded to SWOT analysis, that the strength, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses of the information we gathered from users. So these are the findings we had after listening. Today we are talking about how to plan a UX design, a UI design project from UX findings. So how to plan? Before designing means before you execute the design in colors and shapes, how to plan to start the UI design. So that's a bridge between UX findings and UI design. Most of the UI designers are not following these steps because they start design without analyzing much on UX findings. But today we are talking about how to plan. All my presentations are based on innovation journeys. So innovation journey starts with empathizing idea, sketching concept, then moving to designing look and feel, then rapid prototyping, evaluating MVP, and market feedback. UI design come into force in designing look and feel and rapid prototyping. This is a total innovation journey of a product. That means normally the company with the product owner or the product development team will follow this innovation journey. UI is a part of product design. So user interface design comes with designing look and feel and rapid prototyping. These are the major areas we are talking about UI design. Inside that, you can talk about idea, concept, and everything, but in a total product journey, product innovation journey, UI design is talking about designing look and feel and rapid prototyping of the product. So this is a total innovation journey. I will always advocate open innovation journeys. In UI and UX design, so the steps you can hear from me is listening, designing, developing, deploying, and measuring. Today we are talking about plan the designs. If you want to talk to me one to one, or you want to talk to me as a separate meeting, you can scan this QR code and fix an appointment. Of course, you are permitted to share this presentation to your team and refer it for future use. Okay, coming back to our topic. The first step you have to do is defining targeted personas. So you have a lot of information you collected about the users. As we discussed, there is segmentation and how to target users based on segmentations. These segmentation information you are defining and collecting before talking to the person. Also, after talking to the person, you are reconfirming the segmentation. Then, based on that, define the targeted personas. This is very simple. Who is going to use your product? How you can define that person? Define the user. On what basis you have to define? As I said earlier, you have the basic target, that's the demographic profiles, geographic profiles, psychographic profiles, behavioral, and usage. These are the basic 5 segmentation methods. Based on that, you define or categorize the users. Then we have to define personas. How we can define persona? Think about, take one person, maybe a male or female according to your definition. Think that these are the examples of personas. 25 to 30 years of age, from Singapore. He's an innovator. He's using the product, value for money, and medium user. That's one profile you are targeting, who will become the user of your product. Then 30 to 35 years, Delhi, early adopters, using it for status symbol, and heavy user. Then 35, 40 years, Singapore, early majority, value for money. Like that, as an example, I defined 6 personas who is going to use this product. After UX findings and based on the segmentation, you can define, these are the definition of people or definition of users is going to use this called the persona. Persona is a marketing term. You can say another word called regression model. If you're a statistician, you'll be using regression models. But so otherwise, you can use it as a social representation or society representation, or whatever it may be. We can call it as persona. That's a good marketing term. So we can define one persona, that is, you are defining the product for the entire community. That is only one persona. So any person at any age, in any category, or any geographic region can use this product. But it's very difficult to design that type of product. It's not advisable. It's not possible. Nobody will, it won't market like that. So it will be automatically categorized towards one category of 1 or 2 categories of social segmentations. It's better define the segmentation while the design stage itself. So define the personas. And how many personas you have to define? It's better to have 6 to 10, not more than that. If it's more than 10, it will be very complex. It's very hard to differentiate between personas. So it's better 6 to 10. That is better for the easiness of an analysis and design. Okay, so you should have a clarity on where this product is targeted and whom this product is targeted. Then define. If you are targeting your product only to one city, still you can define the personas based on demographies and attitudes. A lot of things are there. After defining the personas, what you had to do? Do UX analysis for each persona, because you had a lot of information and you got UX findings after talking to different users. Do UX analysis. You can analyze the findings. Maybe you can use the same SWOT analysis, or if you are more interested or you need more information, you can do statistical analysis. But do this analysis for each persona you define. You maybe define 6 personas or 3 personas, but you have to do the analysis and rank it based on each persona. You can do the SWOT analysis with ranking. I always advocate graphical tools for this type of analysis. I am savvy with all these graphical tools, but some people are not interested in graphical tools. They can use the tables and information. That's okay. But according to me, the graphical tools are more precise and more clear to the information and findings. That's why I use graphical rules, because when you place something at this point, it's very clear that it's between two scales. So it need not explain. So when you write some sentence, so again the reader has to apply his mind and conclude. But in the graphical tools, it's very easy. That's why you always use graphical tools. We are using a lot of tools like that. This is called idea compass. You can do the analysis based on SWOT analysis with ranking and user perspectives. Okay. Do these type of tools or use your own tools and do UX analysis for each persona. Then finalize the UX analysis with product designer. That's one of the important steps the UI designer has to follow, because as I said earlier, UI design is a part of product design. So product designer is having a deep knowledge about the product, about the target, about the objective of the product. So at all the stages or each milestone is better to discuss with product designer and finalize. Because the UI designer won't have the total perspective of the product, because UI designer is limiting to user interface. But product designer is not like that. It's talking about macro level and micro level analysis of the product. So how to design a product is a little bit different from how to design a UI, because UI is just a part of the product. Okay, so finalize these UX analysis you have done for each persona with product designer. That's one of the important steps you have to follow as a UI designer. While analysis, of course, you have to avoid these two conditions, two views of the analysis, or two biases. One of the important bias you will fall into is IKEA effect. What it is? IKEA effect is very simple. We always feel that our creation is great. We love it more if we made it. And we argue with that. Okay, what I designed is better. Why should we conduct UX research? I already designed it. That was better. This approach is called IKEA effect. This is named after the great company called IKEA, because they developed the product within a knockdown form. You have to purchase the components and assemble it. And actually, you are paying for that assembling, your creativity to that company. At the same time, you are enjoying the creativity and you feel that you made it. So you love the product. That bias is called IKEA effect. Most of the analysts and designers have these bias. Always they will say that whatever I designed is great. Even though people find the mistakes, even though people point out the mistakes, still they argue that whatever I do is great. That is called IKEA effect. Another one is confirmation bias. So when you start with IKEA effect, always the confirmation bias will come in, because people will argue against it. Others, the viewers will argue against it. What the UI designer will do, he will conveniently take some information from the total data to support your argument. This bias is called confirmation bias. So there's a total data. So you can pick some part of the data or a view of one user and highlight it and say that users are saying this. Look into this. Users are saying this. This is the great design. So that is the highlighting or reconfirming or projecting a particular data with a particular objective. That is called confirmation bias. So normally the people with the IKEA bias, they will look for data to support their IKEA bias, IKEA effect. This is called confirmation bias. Human opinion is always biased. It's not neutral. If you argue say that I am a neutral person. No, I won't believe it. That is not possible. You have your own opinion. I have my own opinion. All human findings are biased. So look into these two bias, that's IKEA effect and confirmation bias. You always keep in mind that this bias is there in your findings. When you argue with other person, this bias is there. I feel that whatever I developed is great. And look into this data. There are a lot of people are saying that. Maybe 25% people are saying that. Maybe 25% people are saying the other way. Still, I will highlight the 25% people's opinion and say that my opinion is correct. This is a human. How to nullify these bias? I already done a video and article on this. What are the different type of bias affecting an analyst and affecting a designer? Whatever human being making an opinion, you will come across these bias. I already done article on it. You can refer my LinkedIn profile for this. I'm not going deep into that, but you have to feel that there is a bias called the IKEA effect and confirmation bias, which is making your opinion and your judgment away from the neutral judgment or real representation of the society. Okay, coming to the next step. After you design or after you analyze the UX design, and based on that findings, you are going to start UI design. The next step is interaction design. So based on these findings, you have to design the interaction. That is what you are doing in the UI. So before doing as a UI design, you have to plan that interaction. How to do that? I propose a model. This is called design blueprint. This is a theoretical model. What it shows? There are different stages like line of internal interaction, line of user visibility, line of user interaction. These are the three main stages. So what it is? Look into this word line of user interaction. Above than this, user will interact. What are the stages user will interact? User actions, user will act something on the interface, maybe increasing the temperature or decreasing the temperature. There's a user actions. Visual evidence, when you increase the temperature, user has to see the evidence, what is happened to the temperature, or is showing that something is coming from green to yellow and yellow to red, or something you have to give as a visual evidence. So these two stages are line of user interaction. Again, based on that evidence, user will react, maybe decrease the temperature again. Okay, for example, if you are printing a document, you click on print, then you can see that printing is going on. So user has the option to cancel. Okay. These are the two stages, visual evidence and user actions. That's about the line of user interaction. Then line of user visibility. So whatever above, what the steps above than this line of user visibility, user can see, that is front end. So first user is seeing front end, then the user is acting on front end. So user's line of visibility, that's called line of visibility. From this point, user can see. What are the points under that line of internal interaction? What is happening in the back end? It's called back end. What is happening in the back end? That is a line of internal interaction that user can't see. For example, if user is changing a knob and increasing the temperature, he changed the knob, he's using the knob as a front end, he's changing the knob, then he can see the temperature is increasing. But what is happening behind that knob? What is the electronic or electronic control, which is acting based on the user action, that's called backend. The line of internal interaction, how it is giving the command to the to the process, that's called backend. Then under that command, there is a support process. Then there is a electronic process which is happening to increase temperature or decrease the temperature. Think about this digital product. You can see a interface that is front end, and on front end user is giving a command, for example user login, so it's typing the username and password and saying that your login failed. So you are showing the evidence. Then user actions, front end, think about what is happening in the back end. It's giving the command, or it's checking the username, or it's checking the what he typed as a username and password. That's called backend process. Then it's checking with the database. So mainly support process is happening in the backend and with the database. So this is a design blueprint for any design you can follow. Always be vigilant that line of user interaction, line of user visibility, line of internal interaction. Okay. As I said earlier, think about any product. It may be a digital product or physical product. This model is same. For physical product also, there is a line of interaction, line of visibility, and line of inner. Look into the dashboard of a car, or your microwave, or your dishwasher. Also, you can look into a banking app you have in your mobile. So what are the different stages? Visual evidence, user actions, front end, back end, support process. Okay. As a UI designer, you are talking about these three stages more specifically, or you are concentrating on these three stages. But as a product designer, you will look into all these stages, but mainly the UI designer looking at the front end, user actions, and visual evidence. Whatever you have, UX analysis, you grouped against each persona, you can again classify based on this model. In blueprint, you can take each persona and do the front end, user actions, and visual evidence. Why we have to do that? Because you already defined that there are 6 personas or 3 personas. According to you, there are these personas are your targeted users. Whether we need any difference, or whether we had to provide any difference in the front end, or the front end is based on the user actions. If there's any difference in the user actions based on this persona, this part you have to plan. Don't think that you can define a product globally for all the personas can interact with your product in a same way. That is not possible. So that's the reason you defined UI with personas, or based on the UX, you define UI planning with personas. So there may be a change based on personas. So you have to do the blueprint based on personas. This is an example I'm showing. So what are the things we will be designing in this blueprint? Features and business scenarios. What are features? For each component, there is a feature. For example, increase, decrease, or click, or print, or so not print, click, or copy. These are called features. On, off. So these are the features of the component. What is business scenarios? A process which is executed by user. For example, login. Login is a business scenario. So you have to type your username, you have to type the password, then click on login. It will say that login success or login failed. It's the entire process. Like that, when you take print, click on print, then it'll ask how many pages you need, then what is the paper size, then again okay, then it will print. So that's scenario, business scenario. So both you have to in both cases, you have to prepare blueprint. Actually, you are preparing blueprint for business scenarios with features. So each business scenario you can define, you can differentiate with features. Again, you have to do it with personas. So you categorize the blueprint based on personas, then define features and business scenarios for the front end and user actions and visual evidence. Take you some examples like login, starting a car. What are the components they will look? They will look into the fuel, they will look into the temperature, they will look into the gear and it should be neutral and like that. So that's a process of starting the car. Like that, any digital product or physical product, you can define these blueprints based on personas. Then you will get this type of table or this type of arranged form of information for features and business scenarios. You can see that support process, then back end, front end, user actions, visual evidence for each personas. So then you find that you need two front end. For these 6 personas, you may need these two front end, or you may find that for 6 personas, 6 different front end, or one front end can categorize all these personas. That is up that you had to decide based on UI findings and analysis. Sorry, UX findings and analysis, and preparing the blueprints. It depends on you. Maybe you think that okay, one geographic location needs this front end, another geographic location needs this front end. Or think about if you are talking only about only one city, still you may think that youngsters need this front end and elders need this front end. Anyway, the back end and the process is same, but only still the front end is different. That is based on user experience. Why we do these two front end? Because if you define like this, the front end is more close to the satisfaction level of that persona. Persona means representing your targeted users. These category of users are more close to this front end experience. This category of people are more close to this front end experience. But how you can? Okay, what you have to do is while doing the login or while starting the product, you can take these type of information and differentiate. It's very easy in digital because anyway you are logging in, so the logging information is already there, that the user is already registered. You know that the persona, that's a user profile. So for that particular user profile, which persona is so close to that profile, immediately you can start with that front end. That's very easy in digital product, but in other one, that is physical product, is little bit difficult. Still you can ask for some questions. Shall we start in a basic mode, or shall we start is the youngsters mode, or shall we start with the elders mode? That type of questions you can ask, then start. Within one question you can easily analyze user needs. So that's one method in physical products. But most of the companies know which are their major categories, so they avoid the other category of people. For example, take about the premium cars. They won't design anything for the youngsters because they know that the youngsters are not the right category to buy their car because it's very costly. So youngsters may not have that type of financial capabilities to buy a Mercedes or BMW premium series. So whatever you can see in that car is always designed for the medium or not for youngsters, middle class, middle age, or elders. or senior citizens also. But actually, middle level and always they design for about 30 years. That way you can categorize your product. Still, you can develop a product for this persona and for youngsters persona separately, and develop another product for elders separately. That's a strategy companies are following. But in digital product, it's very easy to change the front end. But in physical product, mostly the engine will be same or the process will be same, but the look and feel and the interfaces will be changed based on the models. This model is for youngsters, this model is for elders, like that. Okay, so why a product designer or UI designer also to design or keep vigilant on these factors is that user interface you designed is more close to the user experience of that targeted users. So when you give the user experience close to the targeted users, the satisfaction level is uh, according to the design level or expected level, then which will contribute to the marketing. So design the personas and define the front end. You can define whether you need one front end and two front end based on regions or based on demographic profiles or other definitions that you have to decide with your product owner. Okay, next is document it based on personas. Keep in mind, we not started UI design till now, so you have to prepare. You have to plan the designing process, UI designing process based on personas, that UX findings analyzed based on personas, and blueprints are prepared based on personas. Then document the front end process. This gives more clarity on what you are going to design. Think now you are going to design for different personas, same product front end for different personas. This is a crucial decision you have to take at this point. Okay, UI design is an art backed by science that you have to keep in your mind. You should have the artistic capabilities and analytical capabilities, both you need. And how you can merge these two aspects, that's artistic capabilities and analytical capabilities based on science. How perfectly you can merge these two factors gives the best UI design. So if you don't have these capabilities, this is not your area. You can look for the programming, backend, process design, lot of other areas you can be excel. As a UI designer, you should merge science with art, and you should have a highest level of visualizing capabilities, because you are going to design the product, you interface. So you should have the highest level of visualization. If you are lacking these aspects, you can't visualize analytical way and artistic way and merge. If you think that you have a great capabilities to visualize, or you can't visualize, based on that you decide your profession. But if you feel that you are not a good visualizer, then better leave this area and look into more analytical natured work like programming, backend process design, etc. Because why I'm saying that, now people feel that UI design is a great thing. That's a great thing. I am not saying that it's not a great thing. It's a great thing. Everyone is saying I'm a UI designer. Of course, everybody can do the UI design, but these two things you should have. Always I found that engineers is not the right people to UI design, because engineers have on most of the engineers have the analytical mind. They won't have the artistic mind. The artistic people is the right person because they have the artistic mind that engineers should support. So it's better to have a UI design team with front end person and an artist. They can jointly work. It will be a perfect UI design. Otherwise, you should have, as a UI designer, if you are an individual, you should have this capability: artistic visualization with science backup. Otherwise, you can't produce good UI designs. Being an individual, this is very difficult. So I noticed a lot of UI designers is just doing the artistic work with good colors and good shades and everything. That's okay. They never look into the analytical side of that. They never do the UX research, and they won't do these type of process analysis and user action planning, etc. They do just artistic work. A lot of engineers I know, they will just design the front end with some process, but it may not be fascinated, or it won't have the emotional attachment with users. So artistic work is the emotional attachment with users. So you have to merge with artistic work with science. Art and science to be merged in a perfect way to get good UI design. Okay. That's all. What are the takeaways? Define personas based on UX findings. Analyze UX based on personas. Analyze UX based on personas. Develop design blueprint based on personas. Document it. The takeaway is very simple. Define personas. Analyze UX based on personas. Develop design blueprint based on personas. Then document. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope I give a proper step on how to plan before starting the UI design. Still, we not started designing with paint and brush. So how to convert UX findings to UI design? Why I take it as a separate step? Because most of the UI designers bypassing this step. Some people just listen to users and start designing. Some people won't design to users, start designing, but listen to users, plan your design based on personas, then do the designing work. So how to convert UX findings to UI design? That's what I explained step by step. Hope you are clear on these steps. Very simple. Design the personas, do the blueprint based on personas. You always keep that in your mind. This is the user is going to use your product. A illiterate woman from a village is going to use my banking app. The interface I am designing for the banking app. A professional is going to use my banking app. A youngster is going to use my banking app. A elder is going to use a banking app. So in that way, you have to define the personas and finalize front end and UI based on these personas. Thank you so much. So the two steps completed: how to listen to users and how to convert UX findings to UI design. Next week, I will come to the next step. Questions? You can add your questions to the comment box. Or later on, you can also ask questions to me, so I will respond to all your questions in the comments. Or if, as I said in the start, if someone need to talk to me independently or talk to me about any stage of open innovation or any stage of UI design, you can fix an appointment with me by scanning the QR code I already shared. Thanks a lot. See you again on next week with next steps.